So I was studying crocodiles there, living in these really remote the Philippine crocodiles actually sleep underwater, and we found out they actually kind of sleep in these underwater caves. And so I found out that we could actually go snorkeling in these rivers, and we could snorkel down. It's so amazing because it's like there's so many unique and treasured little spots around the island.
Jamaica is amazing, right?
It's amazing. I love it. It's like the little things, just like, I love, Portland's one of my favorite go-to spots, going to Ochi, Treasure Beach, the grill.
This episode is brought to you by Hope Zoo Kingston and Office Supplies Brokers.
Hi, welcome to Light Your Fire Island, the channel. We are here on the Ignite You series with Joey Brown. He's a zoologist and the Hope Zoo in Kingston Curator, and he is a conservationalist and an environmentalist and just a nice human being trying to protect the earth. So hi Joey.
Hello, thanks for having me. Nice.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Okay. So I have a lot of knowledge to learn today, so
happy to share.
Yeah, all right, cool. So you're relaxed and stuff, right?
I love this stuff. When it comes to talking about work and my passion, stuff I care about, I like talking about it, I like sharing it.
All right, cool. So the first question I'm going to ask you, so you're this awesome person, right?
Sure.
Right? No, you were saying with conviction, right? Yeah. So what are three, characteristics about yourself that have brought you this far in your career or in your life?
Let's see. I'd say you're friendly, passionate, and I guess I'd say curious, like in a broad sense. Like, I love to travel. I'm curious about other cultures, the outside world. I love exploring nature, so I'm curious about wildlife, why things happen, what we can do to do better. And so all of those and then my passion for all that stuff too has kind of driven me where I am at today, just keeping to kind of follow what I'm passionate about, what I'm interested in, and wanting to care and do better. And then along the way, I guess, just being friendly, and making conservation, whether it's conservation or just your regular day-to-day life, being friendly is huge. You meet people, your work's a lot more productive, your personal life's a lot more productive.
That's true.
Yeah. I'd say those three probably.
Okay. So why are you so passionate about, zoology and wildlife and nature? Why are you so passionate?
It's just it's kind of stereotypical, but since I was a kid, I've always just loved animals, specifically reptiles and snakes. Like since I was a little kid, I used to go out, catch snakes, bring them back to the house, keep them at the house for a bit, and then release them, or just go out exploring with my dad, looking for snakes, looking for lizards and everything. And so as I grew up, I kind of focused more on that. Like I got more into science, I went through school and everything. I enjoyed math and everything, but I was always really interested in science. And then as I got into university, I kind of was able to take that hobby or that interest and turning it into a more profession, a more career, which is amazing. To me, it was always something I was just interested in, the fact that I could turn it into a living. I didn't care about money or whatever. I just wanted to, do what I loved. And then as I learned more, especially about conservation and biology, I wanted to do what I could to kind of make the world a better place.
So you actually weren't afraid of snakes when you were small?
No.
Who taught you that? Like why was your dad like?
My dad, I think he exposed it to me at a young age.
He's into, what is he?
He's in the U.S.
Okay.
And but he's a stockbroker. He's a financial advisor.
You lie.
I swear.
So
but he was always like, we would go. But yeah, he was an outdoors guy. So we'd go camping. He'd take us camping as kids, as a family and stuff. But I just had some focus on reptiles. But yeah, he I think at a young age, he exposed me to the positive things about it. I think people aren't really born with these fears. They learn these fears of snakes and reptiles and crocodiles from whether it's their parents or from movies, and as they grow up. And so you learn those kind of usually untrue fears of these animals. And so my kind of experiences were just more positive, and it turned it into like almost a love for me.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, yeah, it's just how I know it. There's not like a specific time it happened. It's just like since I was a kid, it's always been something I really loved and enjoyed. I think part of it was maybe, as I grew up, made it more intriguing, the fact that, there's so many people that were fearful of them, or that, just kind of had this ignorant view of them. And so it made it that much more appealing to kind of convert people or try to educate people on how neat these animals really are, reptiles. Yeah.
What's the secret to communicating though with reptiles or understanding them? How do you go about doing that? What's that trick that someone could learn?
I mean, one is, understanding, you can't be like critical or get upset at people for being fearful. I mean, you can't force it upon them. You kind of have to like take it slow, and it's just about, educating them first, simplifying it, letting them know maybe whether it's a snake or a crocodile that these animals are actually very fearful of people and they're not out to attack people. So just kind of trying to educate them first, and then hands-on stuff is always the best. That's why the zoo is such a powerful resource, because we can you can get a baby crocodile or baby snake in a child's hands or in a person's hands, and then that is very powerful because it lets them see like, oh, these aren't this crazy dangerous animals. So kind of taking it slow and understanding, being considerate of people's fears, and then kind of working from there and kind of just trying to open their eyes a bit on kind of what's really going on with these animals.
So is there like personalities in the reptiles, like in the crocs and the lizards and the snakes? Like, do they actually like, do you feel that they have personalities?
Yeah, they all have their, I mean, I guess you'd say personality. Like they're all, each individual is very different. I have some crocs that are very shy and timid. I have some that are definitely more outgoing, and and I don't know, but I mean they're all different. And so like each crocodile I work with, especially like here at the zoo, I know each one individually. I know how to kind of understand them a bit more. So there's some of them I'm more hands off with because they are more shy, and they're more, like most crocs, they're fearful of me. So I have to be kind of more gentle with them. Whereas then I have one of my male crocs, Aki Boy, who's just like, he's really boastful and outgoing. He'll come to me in a second, and I can call him up. And so they all have their own kind of quirks and personalities.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you're doing a Head Start program, right? What's the Head Start program about? What's that? So
we have the Head Start program for the Jamaican iguana here at Hope Zoo. And so basically, to break it down first, we're giving them what would say a head start on life. So these iguanas, yeah, it's kind of a simplified way to think about it. So the iguanas were actually thought to be extinct until 1990, and then they were rediscovered in the wild in the Hampshire Hills like 1990. And what they figured out was the main threat in causing these iguanas to go extinct in the first place was, invasive species, non-native animals like mongoose, feral cats, feral pigs, that eat the hatchlings, that destroy the eggs, eat the young iguanas. And so the best way to combat that, like conservation-wise, is to, if we can get the iguanas past that vulnerable small size, and then kind of get them to a bigger size and then release them in the wild where they can evade those predators, then they'll survive and do better. And so what we do is we catch up the baby iguanas in the wild, we bring them to the zoo, and then we raise them up for 5 or 6 years. So to get them, kind of grow them up for 5 years, and then we release them at like, a much bigger size. So then we can release them and they have a much better chance of survival. And this has been going on since the, early mid 90s, and it's pretty much saved the species from extinction. It's the main thing, kind of helping the species kind of preserve like in the wild.
Yeah.
And so yeah, the Head Start program is raising the hatchlings up and then releasing them at a bigger size.
That's dedication though.
Yeah, and it's awesome because it's started in the early 90s. It's actually takes place here at Hope Zoo, but then it's this neat partnership between NEPA, UE, UDC, like all these local kind of local stakeholders. And then since the beginning, there's been international kind of zoos involved as well. Fort Worth Zoo in Texas, San Diego Zoo in California. A lot of these big funding partners have been able to come here and help with the program as well. And so it's not just like a Hope Zoo thing. It's a everyone thing that's been a really big team effort that's helped save these iguanas.
So, that's some dedication there. It sounds like it's really important. How important is it for us to understand the animals and their environment?
I mean, it's critical. I mean, it's very important. We're not necessarily asking people, you have to love these animals, but to understand them and show some respect, because I think kind of understanding them allows you to at least have some more care and consideration, and realizing that whether it's an iguana or a snake or crocodile, understanding that they're not out to attack you or bite you, understanding that they're actually more fearful of us than we are of them, and so that understanding helps people kind of in their day-to-day lives help kind of be more considerate of nature. So I think it's very important. I get people all the time that are like, using the crocodiles example, they're like, oh, I didn't know they actually make very good parents. Like the crocodile parents, when they have their babies, they make really good parents raising their babies up. And so people are like, oh, really? Like that's true? And then like they're like, I still don't really like crocodiles, but that's really neat. And so that's fine. Like, I'm not asking people they have to like these animals, but just to be more respectful and understand, that, they've been around 200 million years almost. They survived the mass extinction of the dinosaurs 65 million years ago. And so that I think them and a lot of animals have been around so long, I think it's kind of like our duty as humans to help make sure they stay around and not, not wipe them off the planet just because of our selfish nature.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
So you're here in Jamaica, right?
Yeah.
So where you like to go in Jamaica? Like where have you been so far?
I like to get out on the weekend. Like I love to travel, and especially now that I'm here, I like to just explore whenever I can. So I love Portland's one of my favorite go-to spots. Going to Ochi, Treasure Beach, the Grill. There's still tons of places I haven't been yet. I want to explore more of. But yeah, kind of getting out of Kingston, exploring some beaches, getting into like the freshwater rivers and stuff, and just kind of disconnecting for a few days. But yeah, that's why I love like Portland. I was in the Grill a couple weeks ago. So I mean, there's so many places that's what makes Jamaica so amazing, because it's like there's so many unique and treasured little spots around the island.
Jamaica is amazing, right?
It's amazing. I love it. It's like the little things, just like just get it. There's like even being in Kingston, and there's so many day trips you can do. Go out somewhere, make a couple-hour drive, and you're back in Kingston that evening. That's what makes it.
True. So, when you go out, do you like to still look for crocs and iguanas and lizards? And
of course, it's part of it. It's like whether I'm going out for that specific purpose or if I'm just going out, to take my dog to the beach or whatever. But we're still always, on the lookout for, snakes and lizards and everything. And it's part of it. It's something I enjoy.
I'm that weird person in the group that, notices the dogs passing by or the birds or the critters passing by. I'm like, oh my gosh, look how interesting. And they're like...
That's cool. It is interesting, It's cool with the, even just... you don't have to like go catch it or anything, but just to watch it and observe them for a bit, whether it's a bird or anything, just to watch their interactions. I mean, that's one of the things I like is like I study ecology, which is kind of like the study of how animals interact in their environment and what causes them to do certain things, eat certain diets or migrate certain ways. And so just even being on the beach or, being on a hike and watching a bird or an animal for a few minutes, it's pretty interesting.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Do you believe that they were living for so long, so you believe in evolution?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I would say I'm a biologist, believe in evolution. The crocodiles, their relatives go back to 200 million years ago, and there's fossil evidence that supports this, and there's very concrete evidence that supports evolution in general. So yeah.
So back to your pets, right? You say you like to go to the beach with your dogs. How many pets do you have?
I have 4 dogs.
In Jamaica?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have my house right now. I have 4 dogs, a macaw, an iguana, And then actually two baby piglets living in my house right now.
What about the goat that was there? I saw a
Lucky,
goat
yeah, the sheep, the black
it's a
sheep,
sheep,
yeah,
okay.
Lucky. So I just raised him up at my house when we got him when he was a little lamb.
That's 7?
Yeah, but not all the time. So permanently at my house, I have 4 dogs, a macaw, a bird, and an iguana.
Okay.
Yeah, but my 4 dogs. I imported 1 dog from the U.S. that I had before I moved here, and then I've kind of rescued 3 dogs. Since I've been here as well.
Okay. Who's your favorite?
Oh, you can't say my favorite. I mean, my boy Kuya, who's like, I want to say my favorite, but he's my baby. He's my number 1, man. He's like, I've had him since he was a pup. I brought him here. I went through a very difficult process to import him into Jamaica, but he goes everywhere with me. Especially in the U.S. before we came here, it's a lot more common. Dogs go in public everywhere, whether it's to the coffee shop or to a bar. It's much more dog friendly around there. But then in my free time, when I'm not studying, when I'm not work, I'm going for a hike. I'm getting outside. And he was the one who went everywhere with me.
Yeah.
And so since living in Jamaica, I still take him all. I mean, this morning we went to Eleni's Bakery for coffee, and he goes there and sits outside with me and stuff. Or but then I make an effort to get all the dogs outside. We'll go hike Mountain Spring, or last weekend we went to Bob Marley Beach. I took a couple of the dogs there. They're kind of like, that's what I enjoy to do in my free time, is hang with them and get outside.
Are the Jamaican dogs rebels?
No, I mean, they're rebels. She's a really sweet Jack Russell. She came from JSPCA. And she'd been adopted, I think, 2 times and returned both times because she was so hyper. But I mean, she's a Jack Russell puppy. They just have energy, and then she needs to run. So, I felt, obviously JSPCA was trying to find her a good home, and so obviously I have some friends there. I was like, let me take her. I have a big yard. I have my dog Kuya is an Australian cattle dog who has lots of energy, and so I was like, they'll get along perfect. And she's the sweetest dog ever. Like, she just needs a big yard to run, and she enjoys it. And then I have my other 2 dogs, which are kind of like Doberman, Great Dane mix, really big dogs, big pups, and they're sweet as can be. Yeah.
So you plan on taking them anywhere around the world after quarantine, like where around the world?
Around the world? Well, I mean, I would. Kuya travels with me. Actually, Kuya, he traveled with me here on the plane, and I would take him everywhere. But it's very difficult in Jamaica because they have a very strict quarantine process, the veterinary service division, and so if the animal leaves the country, then they have a very strict process to bring them back in. So it's not quite too possible. Kind of once they're here, they got to stay here. But I try to do what I can to travel within Jamaica. A few weeks ago, I took Kuya. We went to Treasure Beach for the weekend. We found a little dog-friendly spot. And just enjoyed hanging out, exploring Treasure Beach and stuff. So there's plenty to do around here.
So where was your favorite place you've been to? Because I know you travel all over the world, conserving and,
studying,
studying.
Probably Philippines. I've been working in the Philippines for the last 10 years. Studying reptiles, and then I was there for a year. Before I was in Jamaica, I was there for a year studying crocodiles in the Philippines, and it's like a second home for me. I love the Filipinos. The country's absolutely beautiful, and so that's probably my other favorite spot in the world. Fiji. I've done some work studying Fijian iguanas, and it's just another incredible country. The people there are so beautiful and friendly. So kind of like the Southeast Asia, South Pacific areas. It's just a great part of the world. I'd say probably Philippines and Fiji are 2 of my favorites.
What's the most crazy thing or adventurous thing you've ever done on one of your trips or travels?
That's hard.
Because you do all the crazy stuff.
I do I do lots of, I guess, crazy stuff. Let's see. I don't know. Some people, I mean, I like...
Or your top 2.
Top two?
Yeah.
So one more fun thing that's kind of like a hobby I like to do is I love to go skydiving. So I love to skydive. So whether it's done skydiving in Australia, Fiji, that's something really, or bungee jumping in South Africa and stuff.
I want to do bungee jumping.
I recommend it. It's amazing.
Yeah, I done skydiving before, but I want to do bungee jumping.
Yeah. They're both incredible. I love skydiving, or I love bungee jumping as well. And then adventurous. I guess in the Philippines, so I was studying crocodiles there, living in these really remote kind of jungles and stuff. And one of the ways, a lot of times when you study crocodiles, you study them at nighttime. So, because they're not more nocturnal. And so you go out at night with headlamps. And then during the daytime, they're usually sleeping, like whether it's basking on a rock or the Philippine crocodiles actually sleep underwater. And we found out they actually kind of sleep in these underwater caves. And so I found out that we could actually go snorkeling in these rivers, and we could snorkel down into these underwater caves and find these crocodiles sleeping. And so during the daytimes, at night times we'd hike these rivers, counting crocodiles, trying to catch them and study their behaviors. And then during the daytime, I'd actually snorkel down these rivers and then just go, hours all day long with a headlamp and a GoPro, some snorkel gear, and going down under the water and then going into caves looking for crocodiles.
Into the caves of the crocodiles.
Yeah. And they're, like I'm saying, they're actually a very timid, shy species as well. And so it's they just lay there. They don't want anything to do with us. So you can go down there and kind of almost get right in their face. And then sometimes, if anything, they just try to swim off. They just dart away. And so, but sometimes you go down and it's until you get down there with your light, you don't know what you're looking at because it's just like this dark hole. And then you get your light and then all of a sudden there's a big smiling crocodile right there. So that was super fun. Kind of aspect.
It's like a lot of risk,
Yeah, I mean it's part of it, but I mean I love it. It's like something we do every day, and then we learned a lot because before that we didn't know. Because if you were just to stay on land, looking for these crocs, you wouldn't see them, and we didn't know what they were really doing. And then we actually found out that they're going underwater and kind of resting, taking because they can hold their breath for hours if needed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone that wants to get into this? Because I thought I was, this real cool explorer, and I don't think I could go out at night, what do you need inside you to not be so afraid to do these kinds of things?
I think it doesn't have to be, obviously my thing just happened to be crocodiles and snakes and stuff, but some people, it may be ducks, it may be, flamingos, or it may be, dolphins or something. So everyone will kind of have their own interest, or maybe a specific animal, or maybe it's plants, and I think you find that and you just kind of keep learning about it as much as you can. And when it comes to if you want to get into biology or zoology or something, just getting as much experience as possible. Obviously school is absolutely critical, like having, at least a bachelor, a university degree, grad school is highly encouraged these days. And then getting, whether it's, when I first started off, especially in my university, I was just volunteering in my free time. I didn't get paid for a lot of the stuff I was doing. I'd find other researchers or workers or that were working on snakes or anything, and I would just volunteer my time to work with them, to learn from them. And then along the way, you kind of network and meet people. I started off working at this zoo in Kansas City. In the summer times, making minimum wage, just barely getting by, but that was my first introduction into the zoo field, over 15 years ago. And from that kind of sparked a new interest for me as well. And then it kind of triggered me to, then going to San Diego Zoo and working at a higher level. So I would just say find what you're interested in, pursue that in school and just get as much experience as you can. Because when it comes to building your resume, that's what people are going to look at. When you're trying to apply for a job, and then you meet people along the way. Like a lot of the jobs I've met kind of spawned from the experience or a schooling or a job I had before, because they knew someone that they needed, now we're hiring or something.
Yeah, you can't take shortcuts, but people can actually help you. Just network with persons.
Networking is huge. Going to conferences. That's one thing I learned early on. Do the schooling, but go to whatever conferences you can, because then you meet people from other areas, from other schools, from other countries that are working in a similar field. And it helps you learn more about your area of interest, and then just meet other people who you might collaborate with down the road someday.
You're in Kansas, you said, so how come you decided to move to Jamaica?
I was in so I grew up in Kansas. I went to university in Kansas, but then there's a lot in between Kansas and Jamaica. So skip 10, 15 years.
You're in the Philippines.
So first I started working in the Philippines over 10 years ago, doing some research there. I came back to the U.S. and I was at San Diego Zoo for 5 years in California, and then went back to grad school. Then I was working in Fiji, and working again in the Philippines. And so, I was telling you, we were talking earlier about like, networking and getting these experiences and stuff. Well, the reason I ended up here is because I was working in Fiji. I was working with iguanas in Fiji, and there's this big international conference every year hosted by the IUCN Iguana Specialist Group. It's pretty much all the iguana biologists get together once a year and have a conference to present their research. And it was there that I met some colleagues around the world, and one of those colleagues was working here in Jamaica with the Jamaican iguana. And they were the ones that told me about Hope Zoo and how they were hiring a curator and someone to help run the Iguana Concert Head Start program. And so it was because of my work in Fiji that I found.
I just will ask that question one more time.
All right. Go one more time.
You said like yeah. All right. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So, what's the difference between the zoos in America versus here?
The major difference between the U.S. zoos and here, it's funding, it's money. The U.S. zoos have way more funding running their operations. There are a lot of nonprofit zoos in the U.S., but they have major private donors, corporate donors that allow them to, bring in more wildlife, allow them to build these massive exhibits and stuff, and just to have much more kind of, I guess you say, higher tech features. Here we are a nonprofit as well, and so we totally rely on donations as well, or like people coming into the zoo for ticket sales or events, all that money goes right back into the zoo. But we're really working to kind of get some more sponsors and donors so we can really expand things. And so that's why the U.S. zoos are able to kind of have these big, more kind of high-tech zoos. And then we're also at kind of a disadvantage here because we are this island country here in Jamaica, and so it's much more difficult to bring exotic animals into Jamaica. It's a very difficult import process, like permitting and paperwork wise, and then shipping. Obviously, any animal, whether you want to bring a rabbit or just like a lion, you have to ship that animal here on an airplane or boat. And so that makes it very difficult to get animals. Whereas in the U.S., there's already this well-established captive kind of breeding program, and so a lot of those animals can interconnect between different states and zoos much more easily.
Yeah, I never sit down and thought about it like that the shipping would be a big...
It's a big stress. It's a very important factor. You have to, it's the whole, for the health of the animal, for the cost of it, it costs, whatever, so much money to ship your little check bag on an airplane. Think how much it costs to ship, a 400-pound lion on an airplane. So it's a very critical process, and so it makes it much more difficult and kind of intense to bring animals into Jamaica.
So that means during this pandemic, you guys would need, more people to come in to fund the zoo.
So that's where we're kind of struggling. It's just because normally we're a lot more busy with school groups coming here throughout the week, and then we get the families and everything on the weekends. And obviously since the pandemic in March, we've been just totally, we were obviously closed down completely for a few months, and then now we're open, but it's obviously very slow because we don't have that consistent business from everyone coming out. So that's cut down a lot of our monies to help kind of run the zoo or to help build additional projects. And then it's not even possible to bring in additional animals right now because zoos in the U.S. or around the world, they're not shipping internationally. A lot of zoos were closed down in the U.S. as well, and now they're just starting to open, and then they're not shipping things internationally right now, even with the pandemic and stuff. So we'll probably have to wait till hopefully next year till we can start bringing in some additional animals.
All right.
Like this video, leave a comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow Light Your Fire Island on social media.